Well, hi Wheat Church. It's great to be with you again this weekend. I wanted to share a thought with you from the beach. It's about wells and fences. I was reading in John chapter 4 about a story with Jesus and a woman, a Samaritan woman, who's not a Jew and she's not a Roman. She's a bit of an outcast by both groups, to be honest. And they start this conversation and they're standing by a well, and Jesus asks for some water. And she says, well, you don't have a bucket or anything and the well's deep. How are you going to get any of this water to draw? And he says, if you knew the gift of God and who it is you're talking to, you would ask me and I would give you living water. This living water. And she says, well, this is Jacob's well. Are you saying that you're greater than our ancestor Jacob? And Jesus says to her, anyone who drinks from this water will be thirsty again, but the water I give you, well, you'll never be thirsty again because it bubbles up from the inside of you and gives you rivers of living water. There's this life source that you can live by. I was recently at a pastor's gathering, a church conference, and there's a guy by the name of Shane Willard, who I'd heard of for many years, but he spoke this message about wells and fences. And he was talking about a conversation with a farmer out in country Australia, million-acre farms, these massive farms. And he was asking the farmer, I notice you have no fences on your property. How on earth do you make sure that the cattle don't just run off, but they stay near? And the farmer said, oh, you don't need fences, you just need a water source. If you have some clean drinking water available, the cattle never wander far from the water because they know that they will die. And he paralleled it with a spiritual thought that if we create wells, living water, if we create sources, life sources, people don't wander. Whereas what we've done for many years, I guess, we've got clever about building fences to keep people in, keep people at church. And these become rules and regulations. It becomes a narrative where we try and convince you why you need to be back again next week, or maybe you've been to church this morning and here's why you've got to be back tonight. And a lot of the language can become controlling, it can become commanding, and it can be really telling you what to do instead of leading you to the one who is life. And we've discovered, Jules and I, over the years, as we have led churches, gatherings, congregations, as we have planted churches, that the greatest thing you can do with all humans is lead them to Jesus, not try and tell them how to live a life, not try and tell them what they're meant to do, come back to church, all these commanding types of conversations, but just sit with people and ask them about Jesus. Ask them about how their relationship with Jesus is. If I was sitting with you, I'd be really more interested, not so much in your activity, not so much in whether you go to church, not so much whether you are serving at church, but I'd be wanting to know about you and Jesus. How are you with him? What has he done for you? How does your heart respond when we talk about Jesus? What is the love of God and the forgiveness of God like in your life? And as we start talking more about the kingdom of heaven coming to earth and the kingdom of heaven coming into your life, into your heart, what does that motivate you? When you walk past people that are on the street, when you walk past people in your neighborhood, your community, when you see needs, do you feel the Spirit of God rising up on the inside of you to meet those needs? Or are we more convinced about getting to another service, getting to another program? So Shane talked about fences and wells, and it got me thinking about what kind of vocabulary would be fence vocabulary, what would be well digging vocabulary. So the question I want to leave you with as you think about this thought, and I'd love your comments below, tell me what you think is fence building language, and then have a think about what is well digging language. What are the type of words or conversations, what would church look like, or what would it need to look like for you to be so inspired to gather, so inspired to be there, that no one has to remind you, no one has to follow you up, no one has to try and convince you why you need to do more than what you're currently doing, but that somehow there'd be a conversation where you would feel so in love with Jesus, so enthralled by all that he's done for you, that you gather because you're inspired to. We believe that Wheat Church is about gathering. We believe that Christians, even those that are seeking faith, we believe that those who are on a journey towards Jesus, if you authentically find the grace and the love of Jesus, you want to gather with others that are on that journey. You don't have to be convinced. So we gather because we love Jesus. We don't gather because we're meant to gather. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on wells and fences, and especially that whole thought that Jesus had with that Samaritan woman. What is it that would be life-giving water on the inside of you, that you would wake up every day with such a grateful heart in order to live again, another chance to live today for Jesus and for his kingdom? So leave us your thoughts. Let's have a conversation about wells and fences.